Many bits and bytes and bits.
Well, how are you, sir?
Doing okay. How are you? You gonna warm up or are you gonna be all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You sure?
Yeah,
You have a cocktail?
I do.
Wow, then everything will be all right.
Yeah, I agree. How's the hip?
Awful.
Well, that's not good.
Dying. So starting to have a bad feeling.
Did they give you cortisone yet?
No, I didn't go that far because I didn't go to a real doctor. I've only been to the chiropractor.
You shouldn't. Maybe I'm going tomorrow.
Chiro?
Real doctor.
Real. For that hip?
Yeah, but it's been better this week, so I'm hoping we're on that same path. So
I'm gonna give it a couple more weeks. And
Yeah.
then because I don't.
Well, you want to be able to swing a golf club, dude. You know, it's like.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'll give it a couple more weeks and then I'll see. So, but I'm not thrilled.
Did you get my text? Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Did you get my text about the topics? We're good to go.
Yep.
Okay.
I got football palooza.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
Free agents and trades and all that shit. I got the Players Championship.
Yep.
I really enjoyed watching that, especially on Sunday. And
yeah, me too.
I haven't watched a single college basketball game this year, but I don't. So I didn't put together Final Four. I just what I have are two teams that I think could make some noise. That
that's good too because it's just different. It's a different approach anyway. So
you can put a Final Four together, and I just have two teams that I think could probably make some people some money. How about that? And then we have our 101, like our question. I have a question of the day, and you have your trivia.
I have my trivia.
So the question of the day is not for you. The question of the day is like going out into the ethos, and maybe we'll get a comment or two. Who knows? We'll give it a shot. But it's a fun one, so maybe we actually will. Or people wouldn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. Who knows?
Depending on what's going on, what goes on this week. Maybe next week we skip. See, because it's very light in the.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Absolutely, we could do that all the way through now. Through the draft, I guess we can just play it by ear each week.
Yeah, see what's going on. Baseball will probably hit on a little bit in a couple of weeks. And all right.
Yeah, sounds good. Let me just make sure this is all fired up.
And go.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. If not, then I'll fudge it. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Bump and Run. I'm Pete Calisano, joined as always by the man, the myth, the legend, Scott Bracey. What's going on, dude?
Good afternoon, Principal Calisano. How are you today?
That's right. I was fake principal today. Always a fun day, and we did have some excitement at the school, which is always fun. Sometimes, so I have a very small school, and so sometimes when it's really quiet and there's not a lot of bad behavior, it can be difficult to stay awake. Let's put it that way. So, because you're there for 7.5 hours, nothing's going on. You're not teaching. You're just basically walking around. But today was good. There was some bad behavior. So some people might look at it as a problem. I look at that as fun. Gives me something to do.
Excellent.
So a lot going on here, my man, like controversy, bullshit. I'm sure we're going to have some differing opinions, possibly some strong opinions for sure. Why don't you lead us off?
NFL Palooza, as you put it. I like it. We'll start small.
Oof.
We'll start on the defensive side of the ball with the Atlanta Falcons. They signed safety Jesse Bates.
Yeah, nice little signing, something that they need. Lacking. Atlanta has been lacking defense for the last few years. I sit here and looking at Atlanta. I wonder what kind of discussions have gone on behind the scenes about how much leeway Arthur Smith has. Bastard, he took on an impossible job. I mean, this was not a good job. They were barren. And over the last 2 years, they've done nothing but strip pieces away and come in with new young pieces. And if you're going to fire him after one more season, I think that's totally unfair. And frankly, it's disingenuous to the coach to say like, hey, we want you to turn this program around, but we're not going to do anything or give you anything to turn the program around. Now, with that said, I think he's actually done a decent job. This team has been, regardless of their record, has been competitive in most of their games over the last 2 years, and I think that does say a little something about Arthur Smith as a coach. But this is another piece you can see their start a little Tennessee. He came from, he was the OC at Tennessee. Bring in some defense, strong, physical. You can see him slowly transforming this into a more physical type team, which would be interesting in Atlanta because it's never been like that.
Yeah, and the Bengals prepared for this. They knew he was probably going to move on. They drafted Dax Hill last year, and he'll probably slide right in this year. So,
which is also now that's good management.
Yep.
Like, you're not just looking at this year's draft for what you need this year. You're looking and saying, what contracts do we have coming up that we're not likely going to be able to fulfill, and drafting for that, which is very, very smart. Plus, you're giving that player a year to develop before you expect them to be a starter, which is super helpful. So agreed. Smart on both teams. I think it's
nickel and dime and whatever else. And yep.
Quarters.
Yep. The Carolina Panthers signed quarterback Andy Dalton.
I saw this. This was one that you had asked me if I would have wanted Andy Dalton on the Jets instead of, some of the other third level type quarterbacks. I would have. Frankly, if he was available right now, just to jam it up Green Bay's ass. We'll get to this in a minute, but I would have done it. But yeah. And you're figuring they moved up to number 1 in the draft. You said Carolina, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they moved up to number 1 in the draft. They made a nice trade with Chicago, gave up a really nice wide receiver, which I'll get to about Chicago in a minute.
I was going to say, we'll segue right into that in a minute.
Yeah. Whoever they draft, if it's CJ Stroud, which is, I suspect it will be, I think that's a good signing for Carolina to have a guy like Andy Dalton in there.
Agreed.
To help him, to teach him, to show him what it's like to be a pro. Guy's been around. I love guys, especially in this particular role, who have been around and have been shit on by the media, but they're still around, because it shows like their level of professionalism. They don't care what goes on in the newspapers and on TV. They care about what happens in that locker room. I will also share this about Andy Dalton. Go look statistically at what he did last year. He actually threw more I could be wrong here. I think he threw more touchdown passes than Derek Carr, who took his place for $35 million. So
no shit, really?
I think he had more touchdown passes, if I'm not mistaken.
Boy.
So
yeah, so we're right into the Bears. They make the trade. They get DJ Moore from Carolina. They move back. They got a pretty good haul moving back. I'm not sure what they want to do. And they signed linebacker Trey Edmonds what's the guy from the Eagles? They got Tremaine Edmonds from the Bills, and what's the guy from the Eagles? They signed someone else from the Eagles. So they got 2 linebackers that are pretty good players.
Yeah.
And that's Chicago's like linebacker So like that's
typical of them with their defensive side, although they also bring in DJ Moore, which, no more excuses. Yeah, no more excuses for Justin Fields now. Okay, this will be his 3rd season. I'm sick and tired of idiots on television who clearly don't know what they're talking about. That includes Greeny, that includes Keyshawn, who talk about Chicago had a bad offensive line. No, they didn't. They had a middle of the road. They had the 15th best PFF offensive line in the league. That means there were 17 other teams that had worse offensive lines than them, and most of those quarterbacks were better than Justin Fields. Who was the player you're talking about?
TJ Edwards. That's why I got confused with Edmonds, because it's very close. Yeah, TJ Edwards.
T's and E's there.
Yeah, really. Jesus Christ. No, I agree with you on Fields, dude. This is
There's no more excuses. Yeah.
And again, they got Moore, they got Claypool, they got Cole Kmet, they got Mooney.
I mean, this is like they got some real weapons for him to throw to, and a decent offensive line that can be improved through the draft if they wanted to, or maybe they sign somebody. No more excuses. And I think you'll see, I'm sure you'll see some improvement. How do you not with those kind of weapins? And DJ Moore is a real deep threat, and Justin Fields has a cannon for an arm, so that'll definitely help.
Running back.
They had
Khalil Herbert, right?
Yeah, and I feel there was someone else that got signed by another team. I don't worry about that kind of. I don't worry about running backs, man.
I know, but you like that
up in the 4th round.
Maybe they sign Zeke.
I wouldn't even bother. I would rather go to the draft and get someone for $1.5 million.
And yeah. Another extra
that guy out of Memphis, that slightly undersized but quick and agile running back that you're going to sign for $1.5 million is better than Zeke is right now anyway. So unless you want him as like a short yardage back or something like that, somebody will sign him, but I wouldn't want him. So,
Excellent segue again, sir. Go to the Cowboys.
I'm good at this, huh?
They release Zeke and they trade for Stephon Gilmore, a cornerback whose great days are behind him, still a very good player.
Definitely.
And Dallas will pair him up with Trayvon Diggs,
right?
Which is nice.
It absolutely is. I like the move.
They probably are top 5 defense going into next year with the Niners, probably with your Jets. And then
I would think you're probably right.
In there, Broncos are decent, Redskins are decent, and Patriots are always okay, and
right,
on like that. But listen, Dallas has a problem though. I think at quarterback, we had too much money. That's not a clutch player.
Which you and I have said that from before they even signed him.
Yeah. Tony Pollard coming off a bad injury.
Be okay. Should be okay.
Yeah, they got money lined up. I think Michael Gallup just restructured his contract. They need another weapon on the outside. They went and got James Washington last year, who did nothing.
Yeah.
That they ended up having to go, get T.Y. Hilton halfway through the year? And
correct.
Who was actually okay for them. He made some plays.
He did pretty good.
Again, that division's pretty good too. They got a lot of questions.
Isn't it amazing how fast that division changed over the last 2 years?
Incredible.
It was literally the worst division in football, and now it's one of the best. At least balanced. It's a balanced division. With the Giants having improved as much as they have, Washington, while not great, is at least a 500 team. They're a competitive team. So
last draft day, we were making fun of the NFC.
I know.
What a joke.
I know. Things change very quickly in the NFL. I think it was a good move, by the way, that signing of Gilmore. It's a good move. Now you have, and what's different about him, you bring up the point that he's aged and he's not quite the player that he was, but he doesn't have to be. You mentioned you have Diggs on the other side. So Gilmore only will be covering their number 2 or 3 receiver, which he's more than capable of doing at this point in his career. So that's why it's a nice signing. They were really hurting for that second corner, and now they have solved that. That's a big deal because then that frees up outside linebackers. That frees up safeties.
Oh my God!
Yeah. So that's a bigger signing than people realize, but not probably for the reason that others do. Like, it's Stephon Gilmore. Well, that's not why. It's because of his role and his job on this team at this time.
We will go to my Denver Broncos, and I absolutely love what they did. They signed Mike McGlinchey from the Niners, a right tackle. They signed Ben Powers, guard from the Ravens.
Yep.
They signed Samaje Perine, running back from the Bengals. I think they're telling you we're going to run the fucking ball. We're going to help Russ out. Play action pass. We got Javonte Williams coming back, but he might take a little bit to get going into pre-injury form.
What are they starting to sound like? What team are they starting to sound like?
The Saints?
Or look like? No. Seattle.
Oh, run the ball. Yeah.
Offensive line, run the ball, play action with Russ.
Yeah, but
you think Sean Payton's been watching some film?
Well, they did it too with the Saints with Ingram and Kamara, 2 running backs, and play action with Breeze, get him on the outs,
absolutely,
get him rolling out. Yep. No, listen. Payton knows what he's doing. There's no secret
for sure. Yeah. This is going to come down to Russ. Obviously, this whole season with Denver comes down to Russ. Can he be Russ, or is he truly washed? It was an awful, awful season for him, but I honestly, I can't imagine that he's just totally washed. I
don't either. I don't either.
So
I think Hackett was in way over his head, and that's just not just with the whole head coaching thing, because he had no time management. You're starting to lose a locker room.
You know what's funny too?
There was a lot there.
Timing is everything. Like shit got fucked up right in the first game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let's say you pull that game out instead of you lost the first game of the season, right?
Yeah, and also it didn't help that it was Monday night primetime alone either.
That's what I'm saying. Because all the lights, all the eyes are on one team, one guy. And if that doesn't happen, even if you just win that game, maybe it doesn't go perfect and it's kind of ugly. But if you win the game, there's a little less tension. You know what I'm saying? And then who knows what happens moving forward? You make your adjustments, you make your changes, and the season could be different. But there was so much shit thrown on top of them right from the start because of the way it looked and the loss.
Yeah.
There was never a recovery.
Another thing that I want to point out too is, and this is a little bit of like, right in your wheelhouse, substitute teacher. Under Pete Carroll, he was in his best behavior. There was no bullshit. He respected everyone in the room. Now he gets this Hackett guy. And it's like, oh, I'm going to get my own office. I'm going to be a little bit of a prima donna. I'm going to be a little bit of this and that. And now Sean Payton comes in, and maybe we're going to reel him back in again. Now we have a grown-up in the room again.
Right. I don't care who or how great your players are. And, I mean, you just look, historically speaking, this is always the case. This includes the greats like Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, and I'm going to give you examples. You can't – the inmates can't run the asylum.
Right.
There has to be an adult in charge. When you hear the stories like you just started bringing up that Russell Wilson had his own office, a separate office in the state, like, come on, what are we talking about here, folks?
Really, I know.
You know what I'm saying? And Michael Jordan, when he was with the Bulls before what's his name became the head coach?
Phil Jackson.
Before Phil Jackson, it was
Doug Collins.
Yeah, Doug Collins. They were a good team. They were fine. But it was too much Michael's decisions on things. And I get it because he's great, right? So you listen to and you do what he wants to do. But there's got to be the man in charge. Even with Tom Brady. Yes, when he went to Tampa, they win the Super Bowl in the first year. But if you look at the second and third year, it was a little chaotic.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it was because a lot of the decisions were made by Tom Brady, and they were afraid to say no, or they were afraid to say we have a better idea, and they just don't want to upset Tom. And I get that. But how'd that work out for you?
Another one with LeBron and the Lakers.
Absolutely. You end up with Russell Westbrook and some of the other disgusting moves and awful. These are not GMs. They want to play with their friends. So you literally look at what happened in Tampa. They went from Super Bowl to playoffs and playoff loss to missing the playoffs. You still want to listen to Tom Brady, the GM?
Right.
You still want to listen to Michael Jordan, who had no championships before Phil Jackson came in and was the real leader of that team? So yeah, that's what happened there and in Denver, and it's better. And we'll see. Now there's no excuses. So, but I like the moves they're making. Bolster that offensive line, protect your asset in Russell Wilson because you're gonna have him for the next 5 years, and move on from there. So
the Detroit Lions, they cut Jamal Williams, stud running back last year.
A little surprised with
They're
that.
They didn't cut. They didn't re-sign him. I apologize.
Little surprised there.
And they get division rival Bear running back David Montgomery, I think.
Montgomery was the one I was thinking of before when I said they lost a running back. I thought it was Montgomery, but I'm like, I don't know if that's the right name. Yeah, I'm a little surprised with this, and I do like Jamal Williams. I think he's a really nice player. So I'm a little surprised there. But, this is one of those things that probably comes down to salary cap. You can't spend X amount of dollars on a running back, so you don't. So moves have to be made.
Las Vegas Raiders, Jimmy G in.
What do you think about that?
Jacoby Myers in. Two ex-Patriots that, Mr. McDaniels knows.
Yeah.
What do I think about it?
Did you really upgrade? I guess that's a question
I don't think they upgraded, but I think it's a real sign on how familiarity or whatever the word is.
Familiarity, yeah.
Thank you. Is in the NFL where McDaniels trusts this guy very much. Again, the guy can't stay on the field.
Well, that is a problem.
Neither one of us have a problem with his game when he's on the field. He wins. He's never on the field. Now they lose a weapon. We'll talk about that in a little bit with the Giants.
Oh, this one shocked me.
Yeah, which is bizarre. And then there's a really weird backstory to it too. I don't know if you know that or not.
I don't know.
And you bring in Jacoby Myers, who's I guess he's a good number 2 and number 3. Yeah,
he's okay.
They want him to be a number 1 New England. That's not his strength. But
no.
Listen, I'm not the biggest Josh McDaniels fan, but I'm trying to be neutral here. But I just don't know. I don't know where they're going. They tagged Josh Jacobs. He's not going to have a year like last year. No way in hell.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
And then their defense is crap still. I don't know. Tough division.
That's the problem. Like, I don't know. I just look and I say you could have had a top 10, top 12 quarterback for significantly below market price. Derek Carr ends up signing for on average $35 million a year with New Orleans. You can't get a guy anymore for less than 40.
No,
and he's durable as shit. He doesn't miss games. He hasn't missed a game since that year where he was an MVP candidate.
He got hurt the last game of the year.
Yeah,
the Broncos. And
what do we always say? Availability is a skill. Like you got to
It's
be
the best ability. Yeah.
the best ability. Like you got to be on the field to be a good player. And I love Jimmy G. You know that because I just think he's a winner. Like it doesn't always. It's sometimes there's players just like that, and the stats aren't there. It doesn't look right, but the fucking W's come on the board, and that's all that matters.
I have a question for you.
Frankly, let me just say, if there has been a knock on Derek Carr, it's that the stats look good and he throws a nice ball and everything's pretty and everything, but they don't win. So, I guess that's the argument, along with what you're saying with Jimmy G being familiar with each other, with McDaniel and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know that it was worth the chaos that they created by like sitting him the last couple games and all that kind of
stuff.
Man,
you are like reading my mind today with segues. Jesus Christ. Huh? Oh my God. It's like you're in my get out of my
head.
Like
we've done this before.
What do I have for dinner tonight?
Burgers.
No. Do you think there's any foul play? Like you mentioned with the whole circus that they did with Carr, sit him, go home, don't worry about it, that they knew Jimmy G was going to kind of come there?
Well, foul play. I mean, we talked about the idea of like
the early.
Like if why weren't the Chargers on the horn with Sean Payton like during the season? Like, listen, we're gonna fucking fire this guy. You're gonna take the job. Like, you can't do it, but you can do it. So, is it possible?
Yeah,
I don't know if they talked to him. I think it's possible for sure, but it doesn't take a genius to know that San Francisco wasn't going to play him, wasn't going to keep him at the end of the season. You're familiar with the guy. Maybe they had a really good relationship. If you remember correctly, back when he was with the Patriots, they were more considering, as a staff, moving on from Tom Brady and keeping Jimmy Garoppolo. So it makes you think like he probably had a good relationship with McDaniel back then. So yeah, they probably had it in mind.
But with Aaron Rodgers out there, they didn't even give it a thought. Like, it's just like,
if the reports are correct, they said we're not interested.
I know.
And I get it. Like, who's a bigger headache right now?
Oh,
Jimmy G or Aaron Rodgers? You want to talk to me about this shit right now?
We're about to in a little while. The Miami Dolphins trade for Jalen Ramsey. Like you said in the text, good, not great. Hot Miami. Rams got off on the money there, and we'll see.
Between the money and I think he's an aging player. Not that he's old. I think he's only 28.
I think he's a little bit of a diva too.
There's a little diva. I will say this. You probably get one good year out of him. Players like this, he probably feels disrespected right now. So you're probably going to get the best. If there is more for him to give, and this is a big question. There's a reason they got rid of him. But if there is more for him to give, which I suspect there probably is at 28 years old, he's not in his 30s. You're going to get a good year out of him right now because he's going to want to shove it up your ass. He's going to want to say, look, you gave up on me too quick. But he's not what he was. You know what I mean?
No, he's not.
And he's expensive. No. And you can do that right now with Tua still on his rookie contract, but I don't know how long you can keep him.
Yeah. I think it'll be a short stay, but we'll see.
I don't know if you saw this one. Miles Sanders signed with Carolina.
I did.
I think this is a bigger deal for Philly than it is for Carolina. It's a nice pickup for Carolina, but this guy was kind of like the heart and soul of that running game. And here I am, Pete the hypocrite, talking about like running backs don't matter. So I get it. I'm a little surprised though. He was coming off pretty much like his best season. He was a big part of that offense, and just to be gone. This is not Zeke who's past his prime. Like, this guy's still a baller, but
had an awful Super Bowl though.
There's a lot of that going around.
Like we mentioned before, with the Raiders losing a guy, the New York Giants were there with open arms to get tight end Darren Waller.
This is
we talked about this 2 weeks ago, dude. We're getting Jones weapons, and here we go.
Yes, yeah. This is a shocker. And if you watch any of the press conferences, apparently Waller was as shocked as anybody else that this happened, because he was like, man, I had no idea that this was even in the works. And by the way, what'd they give up for him? A 3rd-round pick?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Like, now I will say that in the last 2 years, he's been injured often.
Correct.
But boy, oh boy, when he's on the field, man, this is as good a tight end, folks. I'm just telling you, this guy's as good as receiving tight end as there is in the league right now. If he wasn't as injured over the last 2 years as he's been, you'd be having the same conversation. You'd put him in the same conversation with Travis Kelce. Like, that's how good a receiver he is. They use him very similarly, as in put him out wide as a wide out, put him in the slot, and let him run choice routes. He's uncoverable. He's too big for corners. He's too quick and too fast, and still too big for safeties. He's a beast. So if the Giants can keep him healthy, a fucking third-round pick, like Jesus Christ, man. I don't know what his salary is, so I don't know how much they have to pay him, but this is one of those situations where I feel like if every team in the league knew that they can have Darren Waller for a third-round pick, there would have been like Brinks trucks just lined up at the Vegas facility. Like, we'll take him. Like, anybody would have, I should say Hertz trucks. Like, anybody would have taken him. Yeah, I mean, seriously, like, let's arm wrestle for this motherfucker. Like, he's that good when he plays.
The backstory I heard.
Let's hear this. I'm intrigued.
I don't know how true this is or whatever, but there's some kind of truth to it.
Scotty's going to start spreading rumors.
That's what I do. I'm the Yenta on the show now.
Yenta. Shout out to Harris.
So he was supposed to get married.
Okay.
And but I don't know if it was a secret or I don't know if it was like whatever it was, and he kind of leaked it out or something.
McDaniel wasn't invited, right?
And then he wasn't invited, and he got all salty about it supposedly. And
this can't be why.
And next thing you know, he's shipping him out to New York.
And 2 weeks later,
Darren Waller's wife plays basketball in Vegas.
In Vegas, yes, that's right. Oh my God, I know, I heard that. Now you say I heard that.
Brutal.
Holy shit. Yeah, that's awful. That's awful. You're newlyweds and you're like, we're going to have this life together here in Vegas. Bye.
I always knew McDaniels was a bitch.
Off the OTAs. Oh, it's awful, awful, awful.
San Francisco Giants, huge signing defensive tackle.
You mean the 49ers?
What'd I say?
Giants.
Oh, yeah.
Got spring training on your mind.
I got a little baseball. Yeah, 49ers signed Mr. Hargrove from the Eagles.
Nice.
Man, you put him on the defensive line there. Goodness.
I mean, seriously, how good can that defense be? I mean, it's really pretty crazy.
I'm hoping they're still pretty good without D'Amico Ryans and Robert Salas. Both of those guys.
They did okay without Salah.
Yeah. Let's see what Ryans was under him. So maybe. And then I don't think the guy they got now was under Ryans. I think he's a fresh face. Is it Wilkes? Did they get Steve Wilkes?
Ooh, I think you might be right.
Yeah. Who's pretty good. Right. In his own mind, he's pretty good. So we'll see there.
Yeah.
One more, and then we'll get to the team that plays in the Meadowlands.
I have a couple, yeah.
The Buccaneers with Baker Mayfield. Is he day one starter? Yeah, right?
I don't know that.
Yeah,
they're only paying him $8 million. I
don't know that either, to be honest with you.
And I think that's $8 million. I almost want to say $8 million over 2 years. It's not much. They're not paying him much. So they're not obligated because of money to start him. I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised if they start Kyle Trask just to see what they have. And then if they have to move off of him and use Baker Mayfield, I wouldn't be surprised. Every report I have seen is that they really do like Trask.
Yeah, me too. I heard that too.
More than Tom Brady. Obviously, they would have preferred Tom Brady to come back. But everything I've seen is that they really like him. So I think he's going to get a really fair shot. And at the price that you're paying for Baker Mayfield, you can do that. You can do that. My suspicion is that probably as the season goes on, he'll have a good game, have a bad game, and they'll end up doing basically what they were doing in Carolina, which is Sam Darnold 1 game, Baker the next 2 games, then Sam Darnold for 3 games. Oh, I got a twisted ankle. Then it's back to, back and forth.
Yeah,
because neither one of them is.
And then your team's a mess all year. Then you're 6-11, and Michael Evans is stone shut on the sideline.
I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Evans gets moved. I really wouldn't be. I wouldn't be surprised. What's the point? I mean, I don't think. Look at this team from last. They were 500 with Tom Brady.
Yeah.
What have they done to improve? Baker Mayfield?
Yeah.
So maybe you break this thing down a little bit and build it back up over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I think they traded a lineman already too, I think. And
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of tank a little.
Yeah, break this thing down.
Yeah. Get one of those two. Get one of those other guys, May from North Carolina or Williams from USC in next year's draft or something like that. Wouldn't surprise me.
Mr. Hartman. Guy can throw it.
Yep.
Now he's at Notre Dame. We'll see.
Yep.
You got a couple before we move on to your green and white?
The couple things that were interesting to me. One of them is for the upcoming draft, but for free agents, Juju Smith-Schuster signed with the Patriots. I thought that was a good signing for them.
I agree.
This is a very interesting player to me because he's pretty productive. Although he didn't have a great year this year with Kansas City, and maybe that didn't help him a lot. This guy's been a pretty productive and healthy receiver availability again, right? So I'm a little surprised that he can't find himself like a relatively long-term contract. He's constantly on these like 1 year.
Again, I think there's something there off the field.
Yeah, you think it's a personality thing? Like it's just that he's a weirdo.
I think with the
people are afraid of that,
with the dancing and the cord shit in the locker room,
but Belichick has always been able to handle those kinds of guys.
Look, he went to Andy Reid and Bill Belichick, so I mean that's exactly where you want to be.
Absolutely. And then before we get to the Aaron Rodgers stuff, I don't know if you saw this. This kind of went a little underreported, but I think it's a big deal. That kid we were talking about last week, Jalen Carter for Georgia.
Yeah.
Did you hear about his pro day?
I did not. I just know Georgia, I heard he got probation and a fine.
Okay. Well, he had his pro day, and he was so out of shape. I think they said he was either 20 or 30 pounds overweight.
Holy Christ.
And he was so out of shape that he didn't even complete the workout.
That's not good.
That's not good because that's a bad look.
Yeah.
So you went from being maybe the most talented player in the entire draft to being damaged goods because of the legal issues.
Oh, dude.
So now it looks like you can make multiple assumptions off of this kind of workout. You could say, well, he's lazy, or he's a quitter, or he got full of himself because he knew he was going to be like a top 5 pick, so he didn't put the work in. None of those are good. So feel free to pick the one that you like the most. That's not good. That's a bad look for a guy who's potentially a top 5, top 10
This
pick.
is a huge if. But if he figures it out and gets the right fit, right discipline, he's going to be a steal for somebody.
Well, it's looking more and more like a big if, though. That's the problem.
Yeah, I know.
Say, do you want to take a top 10 pick on a guy who on his own pro day? You schedule your own pro day. It's not like they shock you with it. Like, hey, dude, your pro day's tomorrow. Fuck,
hey,
I'm not ready.
Hey, what are you doing in 2 hours?
Yeah, like you scheduled this shit like months in advance. You know it's coming, and you were unprepared. Like that's a scary, scary fucking scenario to me, man. Like, wow, what are you thinking? So, we'll see what shakes out like that. Now, I have seen guys do a second pro day before.
Me too.
So it wouldn't surprise me if
Teddy Bridgewater comes to mind for me.
Yeah. Because the first pro day, he didn't wear the gloves.
He was throwing lawn darts in the indoor facility. Oh my god!
But he didn't wear the gloves because he wanted to show that he could throw the ball without the gloves. And then he's like, "Well, fuck it! Like, what's wrong with me wearing gloves?" So the second one, he wore it. Like, so we'll see what he does. Maybe a month out or a few weeks out from the draft, maybe he does another one, drops some of those lbs, and looks a little better. But the fact that you couldn't even finish the goddamn workout, man, that is no bueno. No bueno.
All right. The new and exciting news in New York.
I'm going to check my phone just to make sure nothing's happened in the last 20
minutes. The Jets have signed Allen Lazard. That's the big news. That's what we need to hear. All right.
Now, let me just say this because I know you're being a little snarky, sarcastic little bitch boy.
Me never.
No.
Never.
I like signing Allen Lazard.
I do too. That means Corey Davis is probably gone, right?
I would think so because you're saving at least $2 million on that contract because I think Corey Davis is getting somewhere in the neighborhood of 13 or 14. But he's 6'5". He had 8 touchdowns last year on 60 catches. Now, 60 catches to me is not a lot.
No.
But 8 touchdowns, that's pretty good for a guy who's like not a typical number 1 receiver. You don't see that too often. That's a really good number.
He'll be great as a 2. He was great as a 2 with Adams there. So
yeah, I think
I'm not comparing Wilson to Adams just yet, but I'm
no. Yeah. But he is a very listen. He was an offensive rookie of the year last year, so he's a very productive wide receiver, and that's with Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson and Mike White and whatever the fuck. So I actually do like the pickup. 4 years, $44 million, $11 million a year, which is a very manageable price for a number 2 wide receiver or a 2+, a B+, I'll call him. Now the obvious,
Aaron Rodgers. The floor is yours, sir.
So the most recent report. All right, so let's go back a little bit. He goes on McAfee, whatever, yesterday, day before, whatever the fuck it was.
When he announced it was yesterday.
Wednesday. Okay. And he said, listen, I want to be a Jet. I'm not holding this up. Green Bay's looking to maximize the trade. And I get that. That's me. That's not Aaron Rodgers saying that. That's me. I get that. I get that wanting to maximize trades. But I'm not going to be held hostage. And, Green Bay can hold out as long as they want. If you're the Jets, you can't. Because you got to go into the draft and you got to go into your offseason knowing who your quarterbacks are. Now, I think the Jets have a legitimate out here. Okay. And I would do it. I would at least threaten it. Or I would at least feint that I'm doing it.
Oof, go ahead.
I tell Green Bay, we're out. So here's what I heard. Here's all I hear all day today. You listen to Colin Cowherd, you watch some of these other guys. Green Bay has all the leverage because they can wait. Okay. You really think Green Bay has all the leverage? Let's see. Let's say the Jets were to say, you know what? Screw you. We're out. You bringing Aaron Rodgers back into that locker room after he just told his entire team that he wants to play for the New York Jets? You're going to bring him back to meet with Jordan Love and see who's going to be the starter? You want to bring that guy back in, and when you do start Jordan Love, you're going to have Aaron freaking Rodgers sitting behind him? You're going to pay him $58 million to be your backup? You're going to cut him and take a $48 million salary cap hit? Who's got the leverage here? So, and I actually believe Joe Douglas is smart. So what I do is I tell Green Bay, you know what, guys? We appreciate the talk. We're going to take a little break this weekend. Maybe you can think about what we've offered, but we're going to take a little break. If you change your mind and our offer is good enough, you let us know. But we're going to back off. And I call Gardner Minshew, and I bring Gardner Minshew in this weekend for an interview, take him around town, and I offer him $8 million a year for 2 years with a team-friendly option for the third year. And here's why I do that. Number one, I love the idea. I told you I have not given up on Zach Wilson, and I haven't. I really do believe there's still a possibility there. Do some things have to fall in place? Sure. But Nathaniel Hackett's a good coach. They brought another guy. I can't remember the guy off the top of my head right now as their quarterbacks coach, passing game coordinator.
Yeah.
Who I like a lot, and I have a lot of faith in.
They brought in a guy from the Titans, right, too? Is that
correct? Dowling?
Yeah.
Is Dowling, am I getting the name right?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. And I personally think Zach Wilson is a hard worker. I don't think he's a diva. I think he made one bad statement that cost him everything. Okay. But I do think there's a player in there. So I bring in Gardner Minshew. Learn from this fucking guy. Learn from Gardner Minshew. Let him be their version of Fitzpatrick a couple years back. Except you have a real legitimate potential guy to take his place. So 2-year contract, somewhere $8 and $10 million a year, whatever the hell you want to give him. You got the money because you were going to give Aaron Rodgers $50 million. And tell Green Bay to go take a hike. I would do that over the weekend and put the pressure back on Green Bay and say, you really? Because everybody's saying, oh, Green Bay's got all the leverage. I don't think Green Bay has to trade him now. They're the one who has to make the move. The Jets don't have to. They could do something else. Now, there's very few options, and Minshew is about the only one left. But I like Minshew. I've said to you many times, if you put his stats next to Baker Mayfield, they're identical.
Lamar maybe, or Tannehill maybe, but
those would be trades. You have to give up a lot. But as far as just signing a guy, I like Minshew. I've mentioned this before on this particular podcast. If you look at his statistics, he is almost identical in those first couple years to Baker Mayfield, who was on a significantly better team. If you remember, Minshew was on the Jags, who were god awful, which is why they got Trevor Lawrence. And Baker Mayfield was on the Browns, who had a pretty good team. They made the playoffs one of those 2 years. So to have equal stats with Baker Mayfield with a significantly worse team means you're pretty good. Do I think he's good? Do I think he's top 20? No. But on this team with that defense, frankly, you put Gardner Minshew as a starting quarterback on this Jets team last year, they would have made the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Think of how many games that they gave away with Zach Wilson or Joe Flacco at quarterback. Even if it was just 2 games, they would have made the playoffs. So I tell Green Bay, pound salt, or at least I give the impression that that's what we're going to do. I tell them I say, we're going to take a break, and I bring in Gardner Minshew over the weekend. I wine and dine him. I make sure all the cameras are on us at the steakhouse, at the nightclub, getting in and out of the limo, all that kind of stuff. And frankly, this is just me because it's getting out of control now. If by Monday Green Bay doesn't change their mind, I'm signing Gardner Minshew.
I heard that Green Bay has till draft day.
They have until September 1st. I just saw a new report.
God.
This is what I'm saying. You're going to hold me hostage for that long? You know what? You can keep them. Now what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's a good point.
What does Green Bay do if the Jets pull out?
Well, let's see. Who else would call the Packers about this?
This is what I'm asking. What do they do? Who's got that kind of cap space?
Atlanta. They want him in the AFC though, right? Like preferably.
Yeah, but if you're desperate now, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I know everybody thinks
everyone in the AFC except the Jets kind of.
They have a quarterback. The AFC is the most quarterback-loaded division in the history of football.
You sit in Indianapolis, but they want to draft a guy with cheap money.
You don't want him?
Right.
No way.
Right.
And you think he would go to Houston?
No, I don't think so.
He would never go. He'd say, I'm retiring.
Do the Steelers make a pitch?
Not a chance in hell.
No, huh?
You got Kenny Pickett, who won like 5 out of his last 7 games.
I understand that.
This is what I'm saying.
It's bizarre, dude.
Think about this. Think of what this says actually about Aaron Rodgers. That you're talking about a guy who's still probably, at the very least, top 6 or 7 in the league as far as talented quarterbacks. And nobody wants him.
Yeah.
Nobody wants him.
Except your New York Jets. Now, let me ask you. You happy?
Am I happy if they do get him?
Yeah.
Listen, who has the best quarterback in the AFC East if the Jets get Aaron Rodgers?
The Bills.
Who is the second best?
You guys.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Will I take Aaron? Am I thrilled about it? No, because I don't want the chaos. We've seen this story for 2-3 years now with Green Bay since we've been talking on this podcast. I don't want the chaos.
You're right.
But when the season starts, the guy balls.
Yeah.
I mean, this was a bad year, and he had 27 touchdowns and like 8 interceptions. I don't even think it was that many interceptions. I mean, maybe it was 8 interceptions. Like, that's a bad year. You know what I'm saying? He's a player, and you look at the weapons that the Jets have, he's going to put up numbers. They have to make some adjustments on the offensive line for sure. But you're going to put up points. You're going to be good. I just don't like that it's such a short-term answer. You know? I really do believe that in the conversations that Joe Douglas has had and Saleh have had with Aaron Rodgers, I have to believe that they asked him, can we get some kind of not a guarantee, but some kind of an assurance that you're interested in playing with us for 2 years? Because you're asking to give up a lot for 1 year. I mean, 1 year for a first-round draft pick? I mean, that's bullshit. That player is a 10-year player if you pick him right.
Yeah.
So I get a 1-year player for a guy who's potentially a 10-year player and cheaper.
What's Green Bay asking for?
So that's the thing. We don't know exactly, but until today, we were told they weren't so insistent on a first-round draft pick. And if you remember,
and now they are.
Brett Favre went to the Jets. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was a 4th-round pick.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So why the fuck would I give up a first-round draft pick on a guy who's going to play 1, maybe 2 years? So that's what I heard today, is that they do want a first-round pick plus they want more. Like they might want conditional picks for if he continues to play. And I'd be like, I'm sorry.
Oh, shit.
We're good to go. I'm out.
Yeah, that makes more sense what you're saying now.
Because what it also sounds like is that the Jets and Green Bay kind of had a deal in place.
A handshake kind of deal, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like they had the basic framework. And now it sounds like Green Bay's playing games and is starting to say, well, you know what, maybe we want a little more. Then keep them. So I dare Joe Douglas to say to them, keep them. And you tell me that Green Bay's not going to fold like a cheap suit because they've already said they want the guy out the building. Now you're going to welcome him back? And if I'm Aaron Rodgers and they don't make this trade, there's no fucking way I'm retiring. You get to pay me $58 million and I'll sit the bench.
Yeah.
No problem. Fuck you. That's what I would do. I'd pull a Steve Nash when he was with the Lakers and say, fuck you, pay me. You know? You remember that? I do. He was dead. He basically couldn't even walk. And he just sat on the bench and got paid, I think it was in the 30 million something, That's 32 beautiful. Million range. They were like,
soon, man.
He was like, I know, seriously, with these hips. They were like, can you retire? And he's like, nope. Pay me. You signed the contract, so did I. Pay me.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say for Aaron Rodgers. If Green Bay wants to play hardball and you say, nah, you know what? I think I want to play this year. Because if they cut him, they still got to pay him because it's guaranteed money.
Well, good luck, sir.
I genuinely, because I like Joe Douglas. I think he's a really, really good GM.
I agree.
Think about this. This guy just had the defensive and offensive rookie in the year picked in the same draft.
I know.
That doesn't happen very often.
I think Hutch should have won defensive rookie of the year, but I'm a little
But you're biased. So.
Yeah.
Everyone else on the planet knows that you're wrong.
Well, I don't think so.
You drafted the guy who instantly became the best corner in the league. I think that calls for him to be the
best corner in the league. The league,
PFF.
the best. No, yeah.
PFF had him ranked the number 1 corner in the league.
Did you buy
by a couple points?
Did you buy his hot sauce yet?
No, I should do that. You know what's funny is I wouldn't buy a jersey because I don't do that. But hot sauce, yeah, I'll buy a fucking hot sauce.
Yeah.
I like that idea. So that's why I'm hoping. I want to see Joe Douglas play a little hardball and say, you know what, guys? Hey, I appreciate it. It was good doing business with you. It just didn't work out. Take care now.
Now, one more thing while we're beating a dead horse here for the last fucking month. Not our fault. It's his fault.
It's
but
no,
it's not our fault. No, it's not our fault. Can the Jets afford to do that, though?
I think, so this is all right. So this is obviously the other side of it, right? Can the Jets afford to? Sure. Can Joe Douglas afford to? I think so. Can Robert Saleh afford to?
No, doubtful.
I don't think Robert Saleh can afford to not make the playoffs. Now, I do think if they had Gardner Minshew last year, they were a playoff team, but they're not this. They've already lost a couple players. Sheldon Rankins is gone. They lost a couple guys already. So who knows from year to year?
Berrios is gone, right?
Berrios is gone. I don't care. He was not productive last year.
Yeah, 2 years ago he was really good. Last year he didn't do shit, right?
Didn't do much. Now, I don't know if that's the quarterbacks. Even on punt returns, though, he didn't do a whole hell of a lot this year. So anyway, Robert Saleh needs to make the playoffs or at least make a very, very strong showing. Good, like if he were to win 10, if the Jets win 10 games and they miss the playoffs, he's not getting fired. But if they go 7-10 again, he's probably gone. So this is where it comes into.
You guys have a good roster. You
got to remember these guys are trying to save their jobs too, man. It's not just. I would love to sit here and say they're just trying to do what's best for the organization and the team, but they're not. They're also trying to save their jobs, and I get it. I'd be doing the same goddamn thing. But I think Joe Douglas would survive that. I don't think if they miss the playoffs, I think he would survive. I don't think Robert Saleh does. Which makes you desperate, which is it's never good to be doing negotiations from a place of desperation. Definitely not good.
You want to talk golf? Or you want to talk a little March Madness?
Let's talk some golf, my man. I had a great time watching the players this weekend.
I did too. I watched a ton of it. I watched some at night when it was over. I couldn't get enough of it. When they replayed it on Golf Channel. We both had Scotty Scheffler number 1, and Scotty Scheffler wins the tournament by 5 strokes.
Unbelievable.
Making us look like a genius, but I think that's just the obvious. He is a goddamn machine.
Bro, he has 0 weaknesses. So when he's firing on all cylinders, he's really, really good. He hits the ball a ton. Very rarely does he miss the fairway. When he does, his recovery shots are fucking bananas. He's one of the best at recovery shots that there is.
I agree.
On Sunday, he putted okay, and that still was better than most of the guys that were out there. So it's he didn't even putt his best this weekend, but normally he putts really well too. There's no holes in his game. And oh, by the way, he's super humble, which probably grounds him even more and makes him more dangerous.
Did you hear what they said? He drinks coffee nonstop at home, but he won't drink any on the golf course, and he throws up on Sunday mornings.
Does he really?
He's so nervous and nauseous. You can't. Not at all, man.
God. He's a cool cucumber. That's for sure.
He's becoming more and more. We talked about this too. He's becoming more likable.
Yeah, he was interviewed after the round, and he was a little oh shucks, a little embarrassed, talking about his family was there, and a little tear came in his eye.
Walking around,
very cool stuff. You can see the kind of person that he is, which makes him definitely.
And did you see what he did with the Masters dinner?
I did not.
So the for people who don't know, last year's winner gets to host. It's called the Masters dinner. It's Tuesday night, and all ex-winners get to go. They're all invited.
Right, only the green jacket winners.
And last year's winner gets to pick the menu. So he had his menu, pretty good menu, like you said. He looks very normal, sliders for appetizers, steak, fish, cookies, ice cream for dessert. On the bottom, It said all live golfers can meet at 9 on the 19th at 9:00. From Happy Gilmore, and then all the speculators come on.
Okay, yeah.
It's very funny. Like you didn't see that coming from him. Like
no.
pretty good.
Yeah. Well, you hear like people when the guy's off camera, he's got a great personality.
Yeah.
But he just gets a little nervous on camera, and I totally understand that. But he's an unbelievable player. Guy's won, I think, 6 or 7 times in the last 18, 19 months, which is stupid.
I think
that's very Tiger-esque.
Yeah. I think he had a stretch.
Months.
He had a stretch on Saturday where I think he had a couple holes. He was not bad, but that guy Kim was coming on, or Lee, whatever his name was coming on, and all of a sudden, at the end of the tournament, he's going into Sunday up 2 strokes, and you're like, dude, it's unreal.
Yeah, you just brought a thought to mind. Like he very much, all shucks, humble, all that stuff. Trust me when I tell you, the one thing that is maybe the most admirable about him as a competitor, as an athlete, dude, when he smells blood in the water, he is a fierce great white shark. Like, how many times have we seen him win a tournament and it's by more than 3 strokes?
I know.
Which doesn't happen.
I know.
4, 5, 6 strokes he wins these tournaments by. It's like, bro, I almost want to see someone push him down where it's 17 and 18 hole. They actually matter. Like this last tournament, and normally this bothers me, but for some reason it didn't. And maybe it's because the course is so fucking cool that
I know. Yeah.
There's nothing to be concerned about as far as who's going to win down that 16, 17, 18 stretch. But yet I was still totally intrigued because I want to see the shots he's going to make. Because here's the other thing about him. He does not play layup. He doesn't play conservative.
But he plays smart.
But he plays smart. He's Phil Mickelson, but smart.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Not stupid go for it. You know what I mean? He's got it dialed back just a notch or two from what Phil used to do all the time.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Which is exciting. It's exciting as shit to watch. There was a par 5 coming down the stretch that everybody was like, he's up by 5 strokes. Just lay up. You don't have to go for it in 2. Fuck that. He goes for it in 2, sticks it on the green. And it was just these younger guys, they just don't go. They don't play that. They don't do that, play conservative shit. They just go for it. So he was awesome. I did want to bring up somebody else specifically. Well, first of all, you mentioned you had Ricky Fowler in your list of 5 guys who
played
really well, looked good.
He did. He looks comfortable again in his own skin, doesn't he?
He looked great on that 17th hole, which won him the tournament a few years back. He looked good. And something that I heard the announcers talking about when it came to Ricky is apparently some of the trouble he was getting into in the last few years is that he was just kept working on the mechanics, working on the swing. And what they said is his new mantra is worry about the score, not about your swing. And it's almost like saying, dude, you're a pro golfer. Your swing is just fine. Go out there and play golf. Play smart, course management, take your shots when you can, but don't get out of control. That clearly has been helping him over the last, half year or something like that, whatever it's been that he's been playing better. So he had a nice showing. He played pretty well.
Rory did not show up.
Nope. That was a little bit of a disappointment. He was nowhere to be found. It happens. It happens. But the other guy that I wanted to mention was Tyrrell Hatton. This guy has a knack.
Yeah, he's good.
People forget, isn't he, did he win the green jacket? Was it him that won a green jacket?
I don't think so.
No. It was a different guy. It was a different guy I'm thinking of. That won it the year Spieth fell apart. It wasn't Hatton. Oh, I'm trying to think of who it was. Another British dude. See, you don't even remember.
Another British dude.
I can't remember his name.
Not Adam Scott.
No. Anyway, Tyrrell Hatton has a way of putting up a really nice number. He shot a 7 under on Sunday, and that's with 20 to 30 mile an hour. Yeah. That he shot a 7 under with 20 to 20, 25, 30 mile an hour winds to shoot 7 under. And frankly, most of it was on the back 9. He really went nuts on the back.
Danny
9.
Willett.
Yeah. But Tyrrell Hatton has a way of doing that, and a lot of these, I'll call it, this isn't a major, but it's like a sub major, we'll call it. There are certain tournaments that are not majors, but
dude, I love this tournament. I love this tournament. It's so much fun. The way they cover it, from Monday on, they're there. I love how they're outside with the lights on, and you can see the 16th fairway with the tree. Oh, dude, it's great. It's just great.
And I love that they kind of made that 17th hole, that par 3.
A stadium, yeah.
It's kind of stadium seat. It's not exactly like the Waste Management Phoenix Open, but
because there's water there. Yeah, it's
kind of hard. Yeah, you can't. But and it's similar, and there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people.
It's a great tournament.
Cool. Yeah,
it's
very,
one of
very
my favorites. And I like how they do it before the March Madness now.
It's smart. Yeah, it's smart.
It's got your own window. It's got your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's smart. Listen, we talked about this over the last year or so, that I think that I was not too sure about the scheduling changes that the PGA was thinking about making. If we go back 2 years ago, this is when they decided they were going to make these schedule changes, kind of move the schedule forward a little bit so that they didn't have to compete with the NFL. And I don't know. Like, I'm very much a traditionalist. Yep. I don't love change like that too often. It makes me a little nervous. It has worked out fantastic.
No, it's
for
perfect.
the PGA Tour.
No, golf has done great for themselves. This lift thing was trying to throw them a curveball, but they're trying to like readjust.
I don't think it's a bad thing though.
More money.
If you look at what's happening, the players that are still on the PGA Tour, they love it because the purses are bigger.
Yep.
So if nothing else, it did its job in making it about the players.
PGA is in great shape. I have this written down.
One more thing about this tournament. I don't know if were you going to still talk about this one?
No.
I was just going to say there were in the history before this weekend, there were 7 total hole-in-ones in the 50-something years of this tournament. Yeah. 7 total in those 50 years, whatever, 50-something years. There were 3 this weekend.
Dude, that was sick. The one that bounced and went right in that hole was insane.
Oh my God. It was like kerplunk straight in. A couple of them were pulled back and into the hole. Beautiful. It helps. It helps the tour and it helps that tournament.
Golf's in good shape, man. It's
yeah. And you think of all the young players, the Scotty Schefflers, even Rory, who's not as young as he was.
Morikawa.
Yeah, it's in great hands right now.
Have you watched the Netflix series Full Swing yet?
I haven't yet. Is it good?
So I liked it. I loved episode 1. They did Spieth and JT together. Fantastic.
Okay.
Episode 2 was about Brooks Koepka, and he is you can form your own opinion, but he is exactly what you think he is.
He's an asshole. He's a
hell yeah.
Yeah. Arrogant prick.
3 or 4. They did one on Ian Poulter, which was totally unnecessary. There's no reason why you should do anything on Ian Poulter. He's
his time.
Yeah.
Past his time.
And
10 years ago, that would have been interesting.
They did one. I just watched one yesterday. And they did a combo of Dustin Johnson, Matthew Fitzpatrick, who won the U.S. Open last year, which I forgot how he won it. What a fucking shot out of the bunker on 18. That was incredible.
I thought it was over.
Me too, dude. I remember texting you. I think, this guy's cooked.
Yep. This is where he coughs it up.
And then I forgot who the third guy was, but it was really good. And Dustin's an arrogant guy too, but a little bit more likable and a lot of Paulina, which is very nice.
Always nice. I'm sure that was by accident.
Yeah. Your wife's gonna be home, right? If all day,
girl. Yeah, it's by accident. We didn't know she was gonna be on screen so much.
And Dustin said, "Yeah, oh, she's in a bikini. How'd that happen?"
Oh, that in.
Dustin said, "Listen," he goes, "I want to spend more time with my kids." He goes, "My wife dealt with Wayne being around, never around for a while when she was growing up. Listen, you're gonna give me more money to play less and be with my family." He goes, there's not a guy that works 9 to 5 that wouldn't take that responsibility. So why am I getting shit for it? And he's right. And he's dead right.
When I said that exact fucking thing, if someone were to offer, all these people are like, shouldn't happen. If somebody offered you 3 times or twice your pay that you have right now to do less work, you would say no.
I know,
because your company loves you. Come on, fuck out of here.
Get
out of here.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't blame him. I never blamed any of the players on that tour.
Dude, I'd give it a shot. You can probably kill it in 3 days, dude. It's like...
Yeah, I think I'm going to check it out. Yeah, I'll check that out. Definitely.
March Madness?
Yeah, let's get to the tournament. I have to acknowledge ahead of time that I did not really pay much attention to college basketball this year. We've become... This podcast has become so football-centric.
Yeah.
That really just dominates all the stories, but... There is just something about this tournament. It's going on as we're speaking right now. This tournament's going on.
The first 2 games out of the gate were bananas, too.
Virginia has already lost to Furman. So let me just say, I do not have a Final Four bracket. You do. So you're going to cover what you think the Final Four will look like. I have two teams that I think they're going to sound like household names, but they're not this year. But I think you should pay attention. I think you can make a little money by working these two teams.
I would like to guess if that's okay with you, sir.
Well, why don't you break me down for your Final Four first?
So let me get my bracket.
And then, yes, I would love for you to guess.
So in the South region, I have Alabama coming out of that. They are putting on an offensive display as we speak right now.
Overall number one team in the tournament.
Overall number one team. They had a little off the court controversy this year.
They did, but they've been the kind of the consensus best.
They are explosive on
which is interesting, right? Like, since when did Alabama become like basketball powerhouse? Last couple of years, they've been. The last couple of years they've been really good.
The East region, I have the Duke Blue Devils coming out of there.
Interesting, because that's a 3 seed.
That's a 5 seed.
They're a 5 seed?
Yeah, I thought they were on their way to a 3 seed, but they didn't give them the love. But they're playing good basketball.
Imagine that. You imagine Duke's
and listen, and give John Shire his flowers here. He has absolutely done a good job year one out of the gate, man.
Looked shaky at first, but
he did. Oof. But it's a sprint, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Absolutely.
In the Midwest region, I have the Houston Cougars going to Houston in the Final Four.
That doesn't hurt.
And in the West, I have the UCLA Bruins. They are playing really good.
What seed are they?
They're a 2 seed.
Okay. Who's the 1 seed in that section?
That would be the Kansas Jayhawks.
Okay.
And
Bill Self was not coaching
coming off a championship. It's hard to repeat. And Bill Self is having some health issues, which is
not good.
Scary, and send prayers out to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am not the biggest fan, but obviously I don't want to see anyone sick and
of course
do what he loves. So, so I have Alabama versus Duke, and I have Houston versus UCLA, and I will have Bama and the Houston Cougars in the final, and I will take the number 1 overall seed as they overcome adversity and win the national championship.
I like that. So you mentioned one of the teams that I think people should take a look at, and that's Duke for sure. I'm like fascinated by what's going on now. I say I haven't watched a lot of games, but I certainly pay attention to the stories and the rankings and that kind of stuff. Duke was a top 10 team preseason. They got off to a really, really rocky start. They were basically a 500 team for the first couple months of the season, but they're 7, and they weren't even ranked. I remember this was like last week. Before the ACC tournament started, I looked at like one of their games. I was looking on the Score app at one of their games, and there was no number next to their name, like for the ranking. Yeah. And I'm like, this can't be.
Yeah.
Then I'm looking I looked at another app, and they're not ranked. And I'm like, Duke is not ranked? What the hell is going on? And it's because they got off to a rocky start. Well, they were a little injured. They were a little young. They're a lot healthy. And they're a little more experienced. They're 17-1 in their last 18 games, and they won the ACC tournament. This is a team that is peaking at the exact right time. You mentioned Shire as the coach. I'll tell you what, the way things were going, I wouldn't have been surprised if he got fired in the first fucking year, the way the season started. But goddamn, has that guy done a really good job in the last couple months. I don't care who you are, 17-1 in the ACC down the stretch. That's some shit. And then go out and win the ACC tournament in impressive fashion. Keep an eye on Duke. And now you would say usually people say, well, Duke, no shit, Duke. That's because usually they're a 1 or a 2 seed. Like you just said, they're a 5. Yeah. You can make some good money with Duke as a 5 seed, even though the name you're going to be buying it at as a premium. You know, it's a 5 seed. You're going to get a bargain there with them because they're playing like a 1 seed.
That's a good one, buddy. Oh man, I think I'm going to change my mind on your second one because I think it's.
Who do you think the second one is?
I think the second one's Kentucky, but I don't know.
It is not. I'll give you one more chance.
Gonzaga.
Damn you, son.
So I agree with you on this because now the pressure's off them this year.
Thank you. I think you're looking at a team who year after year after year, they still won their Western
West Coast Conference,
WCC. They still won it, and they won it impressively this year. But they weren't the same dominant team, especially early in the season. You know what we've seen in the past with Gonzaga is a team who plays the early preseason tournaments, we'll call them, and beats a lot of the big names.
Yeah,
and that's what builds the hype, right? And then they go out and play in that West Coast Conference, and they dominate that, and they come in with like a 31-1 record. And all the pressure in the world is on because, they've dominated and they beat the big boys early in the season. That didn't happen this year. They struggled a little bit earlier in the season. They're still ranked. They're still a good team. What seed are they? Are they like a 3 or a 4 seed?
They're a 3
They're
seed.
a 3
in the UCLA bracket.
In the UCLA bracket. That guy Timmy is still there, who has
he's been there. I think he's got Social Security, for Christ's sake.
Yeah. So they have the experience, and like you said perfectly, which is the biggest thing to me, there's no pressure on them for the first time in I don't even know how long. There's no pressure on Gonzaga to win this whole thing, or to really go that.
It's been a long time.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see them make a sneak into the Elite Eight, maybe even the Final Four. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, me neither.
And I think I love betting on good teams that don't have the pressure on them. So both of these teams, I don't know if I would say low expectations, but lower than normal expectations. Yeah. But they're both playing really well at the time, because Gonzaga did in fact win their WCC tournament over St. Mary's, and they won it impressively, comfortably, which is not normally the case. So I think they're playing pretty freely right now, along with Duke. Both teams playing with a lot of confidence. I think I think they're two teams to keep an eye on.
How many years in a row have they played in the final together?
What do you mean?
Gonzaga and St. Mary's in the West Coast Conference.
Oh my God! I think it's every year. There might be a Pepperdine, sprinkled in there somewhere, but
a San Francisco,
right? But it's always those two.
History.
And frankly, St. Mary's usually puts up a pretty good tournament.
They usually, that guy goes out and recruits like
Australia, France. Yes. A lot of international players end up going to St. Mary's. And why not? It's fucking California. So
I want to see matchups here. Can you give me matchups, please? Oh, here we go.
So yeah, those are the two teams that I thought about when I was like, man, who can knock off some of the big boys? It's nice. We love, and I just mentioned how Furman, who hasn't been in a tournament for 50 something years, they just beat Virginia. That's knocking off the big boy. But the first weekend, we see that's kind of normal. It's the second weekend where the teams that have survived are usually pretty good. That's when I think a Duke or Gonzaga can knock off a UCLA, something like that. So
in the last. Since 1999.
Oh, my God, 24 years.
Gonzaga's won it 19 times.
Oh, my God. And who's won it the other 2?
Times. St. Mary won it 3, and San Diego won it in 2003.
San Diego. How about that? Wow. And how many times was it Gonzaga versus St. Mary's?
That's what I'm trying to find out. It's not giving me. It's not giving me.
To you? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm listen, as soon as we get off this podcast, I'm throwing that shit on right now because it's so much fun. There's nothing that compares as far as when we get the upsets. College football, you get the upsets sometimes, but it's like one weekend you got to wait a week, another weekend you got to wait a week.
Yeah.
With the NCAA tournament, it's like there's one that happens at noon. There's another one that happens at 4:30. There's another one that happens at 9, and then there's all new ones tomorrow. So get some sleep, because there's going to be all new crazy upsets coming tomorrow. We got treated to one already today with Furman beating Virginia, and Virginia was, I think, a 3 seed, a 2 or a 3 seed.
I think a 4 seed.
Were they? I thought.
I'm with you this year, though, dude. I didn't watch.
Right.
I didn't watch as much this year as I have either. I think because Michigan wasn't great, and I got a lot going on too. And it's like,
I will say the other interesting, fun, just crazy thing. I don't know. I don't know if I texted this to you, but I was so curious to find out how many times in the history of this tournament has a team been ranked as the preseason number 1 team and not even made the tournament following, that season. North Carolina was did they win it last year?
They lost. They choked in the final. Remember they had like a 60-point lead at the half. Kansas.
That's right. Yeah. So they were in the finals last year. Most of their players are back.
They lost one guy.
And they were preseason number 1, and they don't even make the tournament. And they're so butthurt about it that they didn't even accept an invitation to the NIT.
Yeah, how's Mr. Dean Dome doing, Mr.
Oh my God, Dean Dome Sports is not talking about this at all. So I thought that was that's almost the story of the tournament before the tournament even starts.
Oh, dude, for sure.
It's crazy to think that. It's absolutely crazy to think that. So anyway.
That's all I got, buddy.
101 in the books. I got to get used to these triple digits. You have some trivia for us today?
I do. I have a 3-part trivia.
Oh, it's so complicated. It's very SAT-like.
It's not. They're 3 separate questions. I should say it's not a 3-part. It's 3 separate questions. It's college football related. I think next week maybe we'll do a little golf, a little college basketball since we're in the tournament. But I just had this one lined up, ready to go. Who has the most wins in college football history?
College football history?
Yes.
I'm going to say Alabama.
You'd be wrong. You want to guess again?
Notre Dame?
You'd be wrong. You want to look at my hat?
Is it Michigan?
It's Michigan.
What a scam.
Who has
second?
Who
you have that?
I think it's Notre Dame. Or Notre Dame or Ohio State, I think it's.
Okay.
Who has the most bowl wins ever?
I would think it's got to be somewhere along those lines. USC? Michigan?
You just said it before.
Notre Dame? Alabama?
Yeah.
Jesus. I'm struggling today.
Who has had the most players drafted in the first round? What school?
Oh, well, if you would have asked me this like 15 years ago, I would have had one answer, but most players drafted in the first round?
First round.
Like in history?
History.
I have a few teams in mind, but damn.
Throw them out.
I mean, I don't know. My first guess would probably be like I'll say Miami. That's what I would have said.
That's what I thought. No.
Okay. USC?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Shit.
Yep.
When I thought about it more, I thought USC, but those California boys, Southern California boys, good.
I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. Second guess, that's a tough one.
That's
a
not
good
too
one.
bad. That's not bad. Because listen, you got teams like, not for anything, Michigan, Florida State was so dominant for so long. I bet you there
Notre
were years.
Dame, Ohio State, LSU.
There were years they had 4 or 5 guys in the first round. Like, that's just crazy.
Dude, Nebraska
LSU,
for a long time, man.
Oh my
God,
for sure.
Yeah.
But all those teams that we just mentioned have come and gone. You know, like they've had bad years. Like Florida State has not been great for a long time. Miami's really not been great for
Michigan
a while now.
Michigan had a run with Rich Rod. They were bad for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. So but USC.
I mean, they had a small window when they were bad, but not like
before Pete Carroll.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There was a stretch before Pete Carroll that they
Sarkisian, they weren't great.
Yeah, for different reasons, but yeah.
Hi.
He was a little sauced up. So, all right, I have a question of the day, and this is you can answer this next week for us, Scotty. But it's more of a question for our audience. And if you do get to this portion of the podcast and you have an answer for us, you can reach out to us on Facebook, on Instagram, or right here on YouTube is an option too. So I want to hear what your answer is. So we're going to mix a little politics and sports, but not so much like political figures, just political topic.
Good idea.
So, but it's still sports related when it comes to the political side of this. So it's the social side of this, we'll say, more than political side of it. So what we're seeing now happening more and more, and there's a bit of a fight going on about it, is that we're seeing transgender, we'll say transgender girls, biological boys competing in women's sports. Okay. And there's a debate going on of whether or not it should be. You have certain states are allowing it, certain states are not allowing it. Some states on a high school level allow it, but not on a college level, blah, blah, blah. It's a whole hot mess. And I'm not looking to take sides. I have my opinion, but that's not what this is for. Okay. So we have the possibility of biological men playing female sports. We've seen this, and often they dominate. So Kevin Durant comes out next August and he says, I'm a woman, and is going to be playing in the WNBA next season. The question for everybody is, how many points per game does Kevin Durant average in the WNBA? So Kevin Durant come August is a transgender. He's a female. He comes out as he's a woman, and he's going to be playing in a WNBA. How many points per game? How many points per game will Kevin Durant average in the WNBA? So you can reach us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
I have a counter question for you.
Okay.
How many bourbons have you had that night to think about that question?
I thought about that today. I thought it during the day at school. And no, I don't have any transgender students at school right now, but you never know.
Do you have bourbon in your desk?
The topic came up. The topic came up because I forget what state it was, but a girls' track team now has multiple biological males on the team, and not only did they dominate a track outing,
oh Jesus,
they were rubbing it in the girls' faces. Like, here
rubbing
we
what
are,
in the girls' faces.
the
No,
victory.
I'm teasing.
And the fact that like we're here and there's nothing you can do about it.
That's ridiculous.
Everybody has their opinion of
ridiculous.
it. My opinion of it doesn't matter right now. It's not the point. The point is, if Kevin Durant, as a female, as a woman, were to play in the WNBA, how many points per game do you think he would average? All right, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you want. Let us know, and if anybody has a good answer, we'll talk about it on the show next week. All right.
All right.
You have an idea how many per game? Do you think he'd average 50?
Yeah.
You think he'd average 50? I think he could average whatever he wants, probably. But
Yeah.
We'll see. new segment. Question of the day.
I have a story for you off the air, I think.
It must be good that we're not going to talk about it. For the very, very juicy Scott Bracey, I'm Pete Colasano. You've been listening to Bump and Run, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Happy St. Patty's Day. Later.
I'd say don't drink too much, but go ahead. All right. All right. I need to end this. Should I end the total broadcast so nobody can hear us?
Well, listen, it's not a bad story. It'll piss people off.
All right. Let me end it then. Take care, everybody.